group? 1 minute. You have to do something to get off. Dear goodness, phone.
Is Ingeborg?
Well, I see Rabbi Ingeberg.
Yeah, I'm about to be here, just setting it up, and we'll start momentarily.
Okay.
I got in on your room, Rabbi Inger,
Okay, good,
from
welcome.
Nativ. I got in from your room at Nativ.
Okay, beautiful.
What I'm going to do is I'll put out a quick note that you're starting at 7:30 at the Nativ site. This is
Okay.
Leslie. Okay?
Okay, please do.
Starting from your room, and I'm going to put on the messenger for Nativ.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Am I coming through okay, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. All right, very good. Okay, hello, people. Hello, I see some friendly faces. Good to see you. Some friendly boxes too. What I'm what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually do this trick here I saw last time about how to adjust it. 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second. All right, everybody. So mute your mics a moment, and we're going to start in a second. And from there, we will then, you can unmute your mics at the end. We'll take questions at the end and talk a little bit, okay? Let me just see if we're on Facebook. Trying to multi-stream. Let's see if we're going here. Okay.
I just put it on the
Okay.
other lady, Albert, and
Thumbs up, you can hear me.
they joined us. They're from the Nativ group.
Okay, wonderful. All
So
right.
somebody has seen it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you. All right. All right, so guys, so today what I want to talk about is, Ayala, we're going to see your face or are we going to hide? Mickey's here. Mickey's connecting. The fun's going to start. Okay, good. All right, so tonight we want to talk about something that is seemingly easy, something everybody wants, but it is very difficult. Okay? And what is that? That is a concept that we are supposed to be happy. Mickey, I see you getting excited over there, Mickey, because happiness, you know, as we know, is the right for the pursuit of happiness. The question is, you pursue it, but how do you get it? Now, I want to talk about happiness because everybody wants happiness in the world, and I want to talk tonight a little bit how to get it. I want to speak tonight a little bit about the importance of it, because it's not just that it's nice to do. From a religious perspective, the famous teaching of Rabbi Nachman ben Breslov says, mitzvah gedos b'simchat tamid. It's a great mitzvah, it's a mitzvah to be happy all the time. Okay? So somehow there is a mindset of being happy all the time, which we have to deal with because there are times when you're not happy and times maybe you shouldn't be happy. So what does he mean? It's a big mitzvah to be happy all the time. So what does that mean? And how do you do it? And how do you do it in light of the fact that there are times where you apparently either can't be happy or you shouldn't be happy for certain reasons? We'll see. All right. Now, furthermore, the problem is worse because it says in the Torah, in the book of Devarim, in the book of Deuteronomy, it says that why these things happen to us. It says, because, why do all the exiles and all the things, it says, tachas, because you didn't serve God with happiness. What does that mean? that seems to imply that if you would do the commandments because you have to do them, that's not enough. That somehow the quality of happiness, of doing them with happiness, is so central that if you miss that, you miss the boat. Why? Okay, that's what I want to discuss tonight, try to understand that a little bit. Okay, now, first thing is, what prevents us from being happy? Well, a lot of things. A lot of things. People have problems. We got difficulties. We have money problems. We got financial problems. We got business problems. We got a lot of problems. We have a lot of dagot, a lot of worries that affect our day. And so we are in the world. We got see problems. And so that prevents us from being happy. Now, the first level I want to talk about tonight, is one of the ways that we change that is I want to show you a homonym. In Hebrew, every word has a deep meaning, what it's associated with. And even a homonym, a word that is completely spelt differently but sounds the same in Hebrew as another word, will have a similar meaning. So there is the word lismoch, means to be happy. Samech. That sounds like the word lismoch, which means to rely on. What does that mean? How does happiness, what does that have to do with the sense of relying on something? So the simple answer is that when you feel you have people, friends, and a family to rely on, you feel a certain sense of happiness. But friends and family can only help you in a limited way. So how is it that a person can really feel they could rely on something that would make them feel happy? So the answer obviously is, if you could rely on a omnipotent source that could guarantee everything would be okay, then you could be happy. Now the problem is, how do you do that? What does that mean? What's that omnipotent source? That referred to as God. Now, but the question is, as I know my friend Mickey is thinking and asking, is, wait a minute, how can you feel you can rely on God when there's so many problems in this world? Right, Mickey, that's the question. There's problems, there's suffering. So how can a person feel they can rely on God? What does that mean? So I want to give you a mindset to understand. This is very, very crucial. And I'm not going to go through it completely tonight. Oh, Eileen, I good to see you, Eileen Miller. Welcome. I recognize you. I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, good to see you again. So actually, this is in my book. I go through this in When Heavens Kiss the Earth in chapter 5 in great detail. I'm going to do it tonight a little bit, but I want you to understand it because it's an incredible mindset that creates happiness. And I always tell it's based on one of the ways you can see this was a story of a great rabbi who accomplished this quality of happiness. His name was Nachum Ish Gamzu. Nachum Ish Gamzu means Nachum was his name. Ish Gamzu was a nickname that he gave him, which means Gamzu, this too, because he had a little ditty he always said. Whatever happened in life, he said, Gamzu Latova. This too is for good. What is that? And whatever happened to him, no matter what happened to him, he said, this too is for good. Now, Mickey, I'm going to tell the story, my favorite story. I always tell my kids, this was one of their best bedtime stories. I'll tell you the story, and then we'll analyze it a little bit. So the story of Nachum Ish Gamzu that's recorded in the Talmud, one of the stories, an amazing story, it says that the Romans were accusing the Jews of a revolt during the time of the Roman occupation of Jerusalem. So the rabbis wanted to find an emissary to go to Rome to plead the case of the Jews and to, say that, no, we're not rebelling. And so they said, who should we pick? They said, let's take Nachum Ish Gamzu, Nachum, the man of this always. And we said, this is always for good. Why? Because he looks at the world in this way, everything happens to him miraculously. Things just happen to him that are amazing. Can't explain it. Fine. They gave him a treasure chest full of gold, diamonds, and jewels. Okay. He goes, he takes the treasure chest, and he sets out to Rome from Israel. On his way, he stays at an inn. And the innkeeper says to his buddies, hey, what does he have in that little treasure chest of him that he has? They sneak in at night and they pop it open. They see he has gold, diamonds, and jewels. They empty out the gold, diamonds, and jewels, and they put earth. They put dirt from his backyard. Nachum Ish Gamzu wakes up in the morning, has no idea what happened, takes his treasure chest, goes to Rome. He gets to Rome, and they get to the emperor, introducing for the Jews, Nachum Ish Gamzu. He comes to the emperor of Rome, and he says, O Roman emperor, I bear gifts from the Jews. Just know how much we value you. Here is the gift that we give you with all our heart. And he opens it up, and it's dirt. He says, dirt, you was dirt, kill him, off with his head. Now, if you were Nachum Ish Gamzu, what would you say at that moment? Mickey, how are you on mute? So don't worry, Mickey. You're okay. What would you say? I don't know. A lot of things you'd say, but they wouldn't be so good. You couldn't even say it in public, most of them. What did he say? He said, Gamzu Latova, this too is for good. Kind of weird. Now, at that moment, it says, one of the king's courtiers, one of the king's officers, went to the Roman emperor and said, Emperor, before you kill him, the Jews are not so insolent, they're not so contrary. I don't really think they would just send us dirt. Now, the Romans were very superstitious. They lived in a superstitious world. I said, maybe this is some kind of magical dirt. Let's try it. The Jews have some power. So it says, according to the Maharal explains, they brought this treasure chest and they took it to the front lines in a war that they could not win. It was a war going back and forth. They couldn't win this war. They brought the treasure chest, they put it on the front lines, and the next day, the tide of the war changed, and they won the war. And they said, Nachum Ish Gamzu, what a great gift you gave us. Perfect. Wow, thank you so much. Thanks for the dirt. They take the dirt, and instead of the dirt, they gave them gold, diamonds, and jewels. That's the story. A great story. Love that story. Now, there's the epitaph of the story. On the way back to Israel, he goes and he stays at the same inn as he went on his way. So the innkeeper looks at him and says, well, what are you doing here? He says, I know, went great, it went really well. I brought the king some magical dirt, and he loved it. Magical dirt, that's my dirt. So the innkeeper takes dirt, he brings it to the king, they try his dirt doesn't work, they chop his head off, and they all live happily ever after. That's the story. Okay. Now, the question I have for you is Nachum Ish Gamzu's approach in life, is that rational? Is that logical? Doesn't seem like it is. Not at all. Doesn't logical. Now, you may say to me, well, it makes you happy because you're going to be a happy-go-lucky guy, but you're a happy-go-lucky fool because it doesn't seem to be true. Mickey, I'll get you in a second. I'll unmute you in a minute. Just, I know your question. I'm with you, Mickey. So now, like this. So the truth is like this. I want to explain to you the idea. In Jewish law, there are blessings you make for good things and for bad things. When good things happen, you make a blessing, Torah native. God is good and gives good. When a bad thing happens, God forbid, you make the blessing, both dynamics, God is a true judge. So good things and bad things, apparently you experience them differently. So why is Nachum Ish Gamzu like always happy whenever it happened? This makes sense. And I want to explain this. It's a very important idea. Things happen to us in the world that are good, and things that are, God forbid, not good. But it depends on your mindset how you view the negative things. If the negative things are there to wipe us out, to harm us, to destroy us, then they're bad. There's no way around them. If the negative things themselves are only somehow, some way, Mickey, we'll get to it, meant for a person's good in the ultimate sense, then even though right now they don't feel good and he can't make the blessing God is good and gives good, he makes the blessing God as a true judge, meaning that I don't know how this is for good. Right now, it feels painful, but the pain is tempered because he feels that some way in the end, this is going towards something good. It says in the future, we make one blessing. Bad and good, we make the blessing God is good and gives good, because in the future, we're going to see how even the bad things were meant for our good. It's hard to see it right now in this world. Nachum Ish Gamzu lived in that world. He was different. He was able to see in everything how this was meant for good too. How to do that. But that was his quality. We can't do it fully, but we can do it to a degree. Now, let me explain this. As I said, in the book I go through in great detail, but I want to understand the basic ideas, because tonight we're going to do a few different things about happiness. So my good friend, one of my closest buddies, Mickey, and I know him very well, and we have a lot of questions and backs and forths always. We talk and we argue and we think together. So he's going to say to me, Rabbi, it doesn't make sense. Bad is bad. So I want to share with you an amazing idea. In Hebrew, what is the word for bad? The word for bad is ra. Now, that's not true. Sorry. And I'm sure you all have learned. Ayala is shaking her head. She's Israeli. She knows the word bad is. But she's heard me say this before, and it's very crucial. Ra does not mean bad. It doesn't mean that. And I'll prove it to you. When you go to shul on Rosh Hashanah, they blow the shofar. Shofar has three sounds. Doo, 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 doo. And then it has a sound, doo, 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 doo. That sound is called tru'ah. The root of that sound is the word ra. Now, why is that sound, doo, 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 why is that called bad? I mean, the guy's a bad shofar blower? What does that mean it's bad? The word ra in Hebrew means a broken, fragmented thing. That's what it means. So the tru'ah sound is a broken fragment. Do, 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 do. It's a fragment of something, and that is in Hebrew the word for bad. You know why? Because when you see a fragment, a picture of something, a brief tunnel vision picture, you could perceive it as bad. But if you saw that in its whole picture, when it wasn't a broken fragment, you have a whole different perception of it. And the example I like to give, and I may have heard this originally from Rav Leff, who I love very much, but it's a beautiful idea to imagine. If you saw a person wearing a mask and with a knife, and he was going to chop someone's leg off, so would that be good or bad? It's terrible. It's evil. It's bad. So you see the guy, he's got a knife. He's going to cut the person's leg. You run and you say, stop. You crazy? What are you doing? The person looks, he says, sir, you're in an operating room. This man has gangrene. If you don't operate now, he's going to die. And you're like, ooh, sorry. Don't mind me. I'm going to crawl out the door, underneath the door, because you feel this big. Now, what happened? What happened is the following. You saw a fragment. You saw a small piece of something much greater. You saw the act of a person cutting off someone's leg. When in reality, it was an act of saving his life. But you didn't see the whole picture. That is what Nachum Ish Gamzu said. He got a mindset that since and I want to say, now I'm going to add some points to understand this very, very deep. Why did God create the world? Why did God create the world? Why did he create the world with problems? The answer is God created the world in order that the created entities, the Nivraim, the us, can experience him. And the way that we are part of that experience is by when we have the ra in the world, the negative in the world, and in the end, it's flipped to good, it's even greater. A person feels very good for giving $10 million. Everyone will feel great. You get $10 million, everyone in this room will feel amazing. But you know what? If you think you lost $10 million, and then you find 20 million, you're even happier. A person who experiences the problem, the negative, and then the bad is turned to good, that experience is infinitely times greater. The reason why God created evil in this world is not so that to harm us. That's a grave mistake. It's in order to reveal the greatness of the good. As the great philosopher, Kabbalist, the Ramchal, I'm going to get a little bit philosophical if I'm going to explain this. But the Ramchal, the great philosopher Ramchal, gives just a very deep explanation. I'll try to say this concisely, but it's amazing. He says like this. He says that the infinite includes everything, includes what's called the bilti bal tachlis, the endless, and even the limited. But you can't understand the limitless of God, his goodness, unless you see how it overcomes and transforms what's bad. Because if you never saw the bad, you wouldn't know how great the good is that transforms that completely makes it for good. The experience, and I'll tell you another thing he says in another place. He's like this. He says, and I want you guys to get this because this is current events. Mickey, focus. This is current events right now. This is amazing. In another place, the great Kabbalist, the Ramchal, says the following. He's like this. He says that in history, over 6,000 years, we're in year 5,780, the world looks crazy. And you think that this guy's in control, and those people control, and these guys are in control, and everyone's in control, and the world's out of whack. It's chaos. And these strong people are fighting these people. At the end of 6,000 years, or before that, hopefully it'll be this year already, when you see that God controlled the whole thing, you realize his oneness. There is no other power. The world is allowed to have the negative, but the negative is not the goal. The goal of the negative is that when it's flipped to good, the experience that you have of God is completely different. The experience you have of his oneness is completely different. The experience that you have because you help turn bad into good is completely different. And therefore, Nachum Ish Gamazu's view of the world was correct, whether you understand it or not. Everything that happens is not, God forbid, for the negative. It's to reveal the good. That level, if a person can get there, even a tiny, tiny bit, we'd be different people. The first step, therefore, in simcha, in joy, is to learn l'smoch, to rejoice by l'smoch, to be able to rely on Hashem, on God, in this way where we say, he is moving it all towards good. I'm playing my role in it, but in the end, it's all going to be good. By hook or crook, we're going to get there. And all the negative things that are happening are meant for good. I mentioned this last week in one of the things. I mentioned it's very important. I think Ayelet it clicked very much, this idea of the kapara. And I always said that old Jews had a custom. If any negative little thing happened, they always say, let it be a kapara, an atonement. What does that mean? The Talmud says, if something little bad happens, it's like making a small payment for anything you did negative in the world. So if you stub your toe next time, you could scream your head off and say, this is terrible. Or you could say, oh my gosh, I just made a down payment for my bank loan. This is amazing. This little stub toe helped me out. Now, you got to practice when the things are not so bad. Because Rahman al-Islam, nobody wants when things are really bad and we have no way, God forbid, to comprehend them. We have no way to comprehend them. But on small things to train ourselves to have this view of the world is life transforming. So the first key to simcha, to joy, is to understand the mindset that everything that happens is meant for our good, whether we see it or not. Whether we have tunnel vision, we see it as a problem, in the greater picture, it's meant to bring us ultimately and the world to its good. If we can get that idea, we feel a lot calmer. Very hard. I admit it's hard. But practice on the small things. Don't wait for big problems. Practice next time you stub your toe. Don't try to stub your toe on purpose. But next time you stub, gotcha, yeah, right? Next time that you stub your toe, don't wait for big things. Then instead of say, somehow, I don't know, God, let this be a fixing up of something that was negative that I did that should be fixed up and better for me forever. And that's the way it is. But the world is so complicated, you can't figure it out. You can't figure it out because you don't even know if your soul was here in a previous life or what. You don't know. There's a million factors. So who could figure out exactly why anything in particular is happening? We don't know. But that's the first concept. So that's the first idea to get happiness, is called bitochon, being able to trust in Hashem. And if a person does, it takes away 99% of the issues. Because, okay, but I want to just reiterate this point. The reason we can't do it is because we got baggage. We have baggage. We have problems of how we were raised. We have problems, things that happened to us. We have scars. We're scared. We have all these different issues in our minds. And because of that, we look at the world askew. We look at the world, God's out to get us. And nothing can be farther from the truth. It's the most unfortunately distorted view humanly possible. The truth is that it says, Baal Tanya writes, that if we could think for a moment how much Hashem loves us, we'd be filled with love towards him. That's what he writes. You can think for a second. Now it's hard because we're stuck in our problems. But let's get out of our stuckness, because we're all stuck. We're all have fears. Let's try to get out of them tonight. We'll try to use some of these techniques. So that's the first level. Now, I want to give another idea here about happiness and how to take it, how to get it. And this, I want to use something that is very, very practical, and that is the following. There's a principle that I've said many times, that a person has two ways to affect their world. One is the inside out. I have a view that I trust in Hashem, and therefore I can feel happy. There's a second way, which is called from outside in. Outside in means that I act a certain way, and that affects my internal system. Once we understand it is a commandment, it is essential to be in a happy state, we do external acts to bring us into a happy state. You have to literally go around and get yourself excited. Get yourself happy. Imagine happy thoughts. Put on some music sometimes if you need to. Sing a tune. Act excited. The act of happiness itself will actually transform the way you function. And I want to say how deep this is. The Vilna Gaon says the following, and this is just shocking what I'm going to tell you now. He's like this, and I've seen this in a few different sources actually over the past few days in different contexts. But a person gets stuck in their process. They get stuck in what they do. So I try to say, think how much Hashem loves you and let yourself get excited, but you can't because you're stuck. So how do you change that? So it says in the Zohar, it says you have to shake up the system. You got to shake up. It says if the fire can't attach, get into the wood, a person's a dead piece of wood. So, and the fire to get excited can't attach to the wood. So it says in the Zohar, you got to break up the wood. You got to chop it up. You got to change the system. Says the Vilna Gaon, there's two different emotions that really change the system. And that's extreme happiness and extreme suffering. God forbid, when a person goes through very bad times, God forbid, well, they change. Because the people, God forbid, shouldn't happen to us, but the challenge, the suffering makes a person's heart soft. It breaks, it changes them, and therefore they're able to change. And therefore the Baal Tanya says if you're stuck, he says, don't be sad, because sadness is forbidden. But it's allowed to take sadness for a certain time every day, for a few minutes, and focus then on saying, I got to hit a higher level, and just use it for your ability to be happy. That you're allowed to do. You're allowed to use it as a momentary thing, and say, "Oh, I feel so far away from Hashem. I don't want to be far away. I want to be connected." And when you feel that level of broken, I'm not connected, then Hashem gives you the ability to feel connected. So a person can use that sometimes. That's proactive. It's better than waiting for problems, because waiting for problems is not good. But the other way to go and to be able to be open to change is to insert happiness into your system. And you see it. It says, Mickey, you should know this. Is why I always tell jokes before I give my sermons. It says there that the great rabbis used to tell a joke before they gave a sermon, speak. They tell a joke. And then people's hearts would be open, and then they'd lay on the good stuff. Why? Because if your heart's not open, nothing's happening. So your heart gets open sometimes with challenges, God forbid, but your heart gets open with joy. So pushing joy into the system through thinking positive thoughts, focusing on the positive, you could do that. A worry comes into your head, you could say, hey, I trust in Hashem, it's going to be all right. Sing a happy tune, externally motivate yourself. Now, you got to understand something. And this is really where one of the places where the world, there's certain places the world, in most places, the world has an idea of truth, and then unfortunately it's lost in lies. The problem here is the world makes the happiness the goal in itself. And now I don't know what I'm happy about. I'm like, okay, I'm happy because I'm happy. The happiness is a means to a greater end. And this is what's called simcha shel mitzvah. A person who is happy, they literally go into what they're happy about. Like, for example, look when a person's laughing. When a person's laughing, they are completely absorbed into that experience. The two greatest emotions, the two most extreme emotions, are what? Laughter and crying. And if you notice, they each run into each other. Sometimes when you're supposed to cry, you start laughing. Sometimes they laugh, start crying. Because both of those emotions are very extreme. The word in Hebrew, bocheh, is the word mevucha. Right? Mevucha, ayata, mevucha. Mevucha is someone who feels trapped. When a person feels there's no way out, they break out into crying because there's no way, they're stuck in this experience. There's no way to get out. And the most extreme now, sweat of the soul, is tears. Happiness is, generally speaking, a feeling in the heart. When it comes to full expression, it's called laughter. And that's one of the reasons why you have to be careful. Why it says in the future, our mouths are filled with laughter. Today, you got to be careful. Why? Because look at the people that are usually laughing. Usually, they're just like, whoa. They're fools usually. So, because they can become one with the laughter and they get absorbed into what that is. Therefore, the laughter, the joy should be a joy that's meaningful. That's called simcha shel mitzvah. A person should feel happy and now do positive things. The commandments, do them with that happiness. Okay, write the questions down, Mickey. I'm with you. So now a person should go take that joy and now use it for the positive expression. That's why it says in the Torah, we were punished because we didn't do the commandments with joy. Because when you do it with joy, you are invested in the commandments. If you do it, look, if you do something like this, you give charity to somebody, you don't want to do it. So who did it? I don't know. The social pressure, my hand that you force. If you took my hand, you forced me to give charity, it's the same thing. I didn't do it. When you do it with joy, that means the real you is connected. So we have to go get ourselves in a happy state and use that happy state to go and to do things that are positive in the world. Because if you do the commandments without that, it's not you. It's you're forced. You're scared if you don't. You have to do it. But if you don't do the happiness, it's not really you. You're not there. So phase 2 is to develop happiness through positive thought, through focusing on positive, through singing a happy tune, whatever it is, but not to say that's the end goal, because then it's going to wear off. It's going to end up becoming just foolishness. It's going to end up being the guys who are laughing at the disco, and they get absorbed into that moment and they get lost in that. The reason I said the disco, Mickey, and I was getting excited over there, because I saw a whole thing this week about singing and dancing. Because dancing is an expression of joy. And so is singing. And the Torah, the Levites, Mickey, you're a Levite, the Levites had the power of singing. And I saw one of the Kabbalist explanations, it says when you hear song, it connects you to the root of your soul. Your soul hears the song, it connects you, and you feel joy. Music brings that person to happiness. Dancing is taking the happiness inside and bringing it out in your body. You become one with the happiness. But if you do it in a stupid way, of people that are dancing like for idiotic things, then that becomes their world. But when you dance and you sing, and for happiness to do something positive, that becomes your expression. Very amazing. This is a very... I also saw this in the Breslov teachings. In Breslov, you'll see, if you go to Israel sometimes, you'll see the Breslov Hasidim, the Hasidim that come out of the cars and start dancing around. Okay, hopefully they're doing it properly. But the idea of the dancing is to express joy as a positive thing, but for a positive purpose, to connect to the endless, connect to God. If it's for a lowly, temporary thing, that in the end will not bring you true happiness. Okay, good. Now, so phase 2 is to go into get happy by acting happy and then using that for a commandment. But I got to ask you another thing here. What is happiness? How do I become happy? And this is phase 3. A person generally becomes happy when they feel they are. Happiness is a byproduct of living the way you're supposed to. When a person does things that he feels he's expressing who he is, he's living in the way that he should, they feel happy. People who do not live a life that they feel deep down they should, it's an illusion. Real happiness means it's a byproduct of I am expressing who I am reaching what I really am about, I am living my life in a proper way. And then I have a feeling of contentment, of fulfillment. Okay. So here comes the trick, guys. And this is a little bit of a problem. So I want to live my life in a way where I'm expressing who I am. And everyone wants to, right? I know my good friend Mickey, one of the hardest things, he says that he's not a singer. Mickey's a great actor, right, Mickey? Great comedian, has many great qualities, but he's not a singer. So he said, why are you not a singer? He wanted to express that. Right? We talk about that many times, Mickey. A person wants to express what their qualities because it makes them happy. So now here comes the problem. This is a real problem. A lot of times in life, you work hard at becoming yourself, expressing yourself, and then you get frustrated because you're working so hard at it that you're not there. So it's a problem because on one hand, happiness is experienced by expressing and living your life, what you really are and how you should be living. And at the same other hand, then you could feel frustrated because you want to attain something that you're not attaining. So how do you put those two things together? And I want us to understand this. There is a quality called sameach bechelko, happy with your portion. And that is a crucial thing everyone needs to get in touch with. I talked about it in the first session we had on this, but everyone needs to get in touch with the place of this is me. And to get comfortable, to understand the idea that if God made you, which he did, then there's something about you that is incredibly unique and special. And that's who you are. And there's something that you do different than anyone else. And if you can't, I mean, it's a problem because if God created you, he's saying that you have a job that you could do that no one else could do. So why don't you see it in yourself? And then a person has to realize, whatever I am is what I'm supposed to be, and that's good. I try to express it. I live my life trying to express it. At the same time, I understand that that is what I have to do. If I am trying to express myself, what I'm about, what my job is in the world, whether or not I fully get there, I don't fully get there, that's not always in my control. But I am who I am. Okay? So the joy that a person has to have is to find that, what they call, the rest of Chazim called Nakuda Tova. Find that special part of who you are and appreciate that. And then say, all the things I have are to express that. And I could feel a simcha, a joy in saying, this is me. And I have a value that God created. And now I'm working my life to express it. And whether I'm fully able to in this time after 120 years in the world to come, that's what I'm going to be. But that's an appreciation of who our rootnish soul is. And when we appreciate that and we feel content with what we are, and we strive still to attain it, we do the best we can, but we realize that what we are is what we're always going to be. We're going to be able to get that experience as long as we try in this world, make that effort, we'll get that experience after. So those are the 3 points I want us to get tonight. Again, the 3 points are, first way for joy is to have bitachon, to develop a relationship where you understand God's not out to get you at all. That's completely wrong. And not only that, everything that's bad is for the purpose of bringing out the good. Now I don't got to worry so much. The things that are difficult are to bring out the good. Second thing, the idea of me getting expressing what I'm about means I have to have the joy to be able to do that. And I'm going to work and focus on experience externally, the joy to bring it internally, and then use it to do actions that make the world a better place, called the mitzvot. I'm doing these things through that joy, and then I am what's called mislabish. I'm involved. I am part of that action. The third thing is to realize that you have a special aspect that's yours. And when you realize that and you become content with that and realizing you're something special, then as you try to attain that in this world, you still realize this is me and I have something that's good and I'm happy with what I have. God gives me what I need to accomplish what I have to. Everything he gives me is perfectly tailored for what I have to accomplish. And therefore, that's my mindset. I try to get it, but I realize there's a place in myself where I'm striving to grow, but I have something. I am something. I am a soul that has a special, unique aspect in this world that will be brought out, and I'm doing my best to try to do that. Those are the thoughts tonight for happiness. We're going to open the questions. So I know Mickey wrote a whole a novel down there. So we're going to open the questions. Unmute yourself, or I'll unmute you. If you got a question, then raise your hand. I'll unmute you. Mickey, I'm unmuting you. Or unmute yourself, Mickey. Mickey, you have to one second. Unmute. 1 second. Unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Mickey.
Oh,
Mickey, a lot of questions that I saw.
they should know that that you and the Rebbitzin, your family to me, I love you both, right? But
Yeah,
I
we love you too, Mickey.
agree with you with most everything you said. And I'd like to hear, as you and I always have these arguments, I'd like to hear from other participants.
Good.
One, I never believe that everything happens for the best.
Right.
People have some terrible things happen to them.
Right.
Say, well, this is the way it should be, and this is the way it's going to turn out. And I don't believe that. I just
Okay.
think some people have suffering that they shouldn't have. And if making us suffer, it shouldn't be that way. Now, I'd like to hear other people's opinion on that. I have other statements, but on that alone, I want to hear, do Orthodox Jews necessarily buy that, well, this happened, but this is what Hashem wants, and therefore it happens for the best?
Yeah. That is a clear Torah teaching. I understand that you don't feel that way, and I can't prove it to you. I can only show you, I can only give you the example of the idea said about what is the word ra, what is evil, to show you theoretically it's possible. I can show you theoretically that something that's, and I can show you, I can do this with everybody in this room. Everyone in this room, everybody has had some experience of something that was bad at the time that later turned out for good. Everyone had some experience. You were fired from a job, and it was the worst thing in the world, and because you were fired from that job, you got a much better job. You broke up with this boyfriend or girlfriend, it was the worst thing in the world.
I agree.
And
I agree.
everyone has some experience like that. So we can see it on a small level. Mickey, your point is well taken, that it's very hard to see it on a global level, on big things. I agree. And that's why in Jewish law, you can't go to someone who's having a terrible thing happen and say, oh, it's for good. You're called an idiot. It's what you're supposed to do is, if you go to a house of mourning, you're supposed to empathize and be silent and be there for the people's pain. Nobody says you're supposed to go and say it's because when, God forbid, something very hard happens, we are human beings, we're supposed to feel it. But you're right. I can't prove to you that how everything is for good, because you can't. I can show you a small example of it. I could tell you that in the Torah, that is the clearly the statement. And one more thing, Mickey, I could prove it to you philosophically.
How?
Ready? All right, here we go. All right, I can prove it to you philosophically. Now, you might accept my premises, but you'll understand why, from a Torah perspective, these are axiomatic premises. In the Torah, we believe, one, God is omnipotent. If God wasn't omnipotent, then he wouldn't be God, because that would be what's called a superhero, right? The whole God means that he is the prime cause, the first cause. Nothing is like him in any way, and he's perfect in every way, so he's omnipotent. Right? Being God also means to be beneficent, good in every way that's good, because otherwise it wouldn't be God either. Our definition of God is therefore contains omnipotent and beneficent and good in every way that's good. Now, I can keep going on, Mickey, but with those two, it's checkmate already. It's a two-move checkmate. Why? Watch. Because if it's true, Mickey, that God is good, so he'd want to give good. Why would he want to give bad? So maybe you'll say, well, because he can't help it. But he can't, because he's omnipotent. He can do what he wants to do. So if God is omnipotent and he's good, then by definition, it has to be everything he does for the good. Because why would he do it otherwise? Then he wouldn't be good. And if he's good and he wants to help, but he can't, he's not omnipotent. Checkmate.
How do you know that what's good for God is good for me?
Oh, that's very good. That's a good point. That's true. That's true. what we think is good for us is not always what is good for us. Like a kid, the kid thinks that the chocolate, the candy, the all the food coloring is good for him. He really thinks that. He really thinks that. And if you understand that, you can't tell a 4-year-old child, well, it's not because you're talking to a wall. We're 4-year-old children in that way. So you're right. We don't. We know what we think we want. We know what we think is good. But you're right. We don't. So I can answer your question that first of all, God doesn't need anything. So it's not good for him. He doesn't need anything. He wants it for our good. So if like Mickey's saying, if what we think is good, we think is what God does for us, he thinks is good, is not what we think is good. By definition, we are the 4-year-old child who doesn't know because we don't know everything.
I'd like to hear from some other people.
Okay, I'm open to anyone. Anyone wants to comment on Mickey's point, please feel free.
I have a comment question.
What?
I have a comment question.
Comment question. Good.
That
Okay.
is related to what Mickey is saying,
Good.
basically. So I can see all the logic in your class, and as you know me, I'm emphasizing with everything that you said. God is good, everything's good, blah, blah, blah. Stub your toe, whatever.
Right.
And when it comes to and forgive me for the choice of words, but when it comes to small disasters, bad things happen, parnasa, this, even chas v'shalom, losing somebody.
Right.
Okay, it's good, it's for the good. But when you're talking about people who actually went through calamities, brutal violence and evil, what would you say to a person like that? How can he continue believing God when he sees true evil happens in front of his eyes or to him? And we're talking about brutal stuff like the Holocaust.
Yeah. Right. So as you know, I kind of lived through this with my parents. My mother was in Auschwitz. And so people asked me many years about the Holocaust to explain it, and the generation of the Holocaust are older now. My mother was young. She was 16 during the Holocaust. And when she was in Auschwitz, she was 16 and she passed away at 90. So, so there's not that many left of the Holocaust generation who did see some of the most barbaric actions ever in history. So when people would ask me, I would not answer. Why wouldn't I answer? So I answered the Holocaust. I would say, let's talk about the Spanish Inquisition. Why? Spanish Inquisition was terrible also. The reason I talk about the Spanish Inquisition is because when a person is going through pain, you can't talk to the pain. We're human beings. We're supposed to feel, we're allowed to feel the pain. We're supposed to feel the pain. In our heads, we know somehow, some way, God's moving to good. But Mickey's right. I don't always see it. Some people do, some people don't. So when a person's, God forbid, in a bad situation, you can't go to them and say, well, oh, sure, good, thanks for them. Glad you joined the class. So you can't say to them, no, it's for good. That would be cruel. They have to. So the answer to the question is, when people who are going through terrible calamities, you don't try to explain to them something that they can't experience because they're experiencing pain. But you have to understand something, and this is the point I yell at. And what I'm going to say now, I'm going to say it in a way that's going to sound a little bit harsh. I just want to say it so you understand what I'm saying here. Philosophically, there's not a difference between the Holocaust or one baby dying. Philosophically. This is much worse. I understand. It's millions of people die. I understand that. I mean, obviously. But the point is that, as Mickey said before, if God is good, which he is, so why does one baby die? So, well, we don't understand. It's like, you don't understand this thing, but that thing, it's the same question. So the answer is that I don't understand this, and I certainly don't understand that. You can say what you want to say. When Avad Yosef got into trouble years ago in Rosham, when he said he was, Avad Yosef was one of the great leaders in Israel, and the Israeli media loved to listen to him because he didn't really care what anyone said. He said what he wanted to say, and they loved it. They used to write down what he said and put it in the papers. So he made a statement once that the people in the Holocaust were Gilgulim. Their souls had been in the world before, and they came back, and the experience of the Holocaust was to fix up the things that happened in another life. So the media went crazy. How could he say that? How could he say that? I mean, I don't know if every single person, but was he right for a lot of people? Of course he was right. We don't know. We don't know who was here in this world and fixing up and something from previous life. You don't know that. That's why these things are outside of our purview. What I'm trying to show is that the word Ra means tunnel vision. It means that you can't see past it. And this is, I didn't go through it in this class, so I had other things I wanted to talk about, but in this class that I give about Ra, about this, I talk about it. I say, imagine a second. Most people, the reason why we can't imagine, bad, how bad things can be for good is because here's the one piece that without this piece, it makes no sense, Mickey, and you're right. If a person, God forbid, dies, so it's finished. So what's for good? So fine. So you taught me, a bad thing happened. It was for good. I understand. The guy learned his lesson, and next time he doesn't do this, do that. Okay, fine. But if the guy dies, so what does it mean for good? It's over. The answer is it's not over. If you understood, just like when a baby is in the mother's womb, the baby cannot imagine an entire world outside the mother's womb. It can't imagine it. So it leaves the mother's womb and it's dead because the baby from inside looks like it fell into the abyss. It's gone. Meanwhile, it's going to a whole different dimension, which it couldn't have dreamed of before. That's this world. We live in this world and we can't imagine there is another dimension that's beyond this world. Once there is, there's not many questions anymore. There's really almost no questions, because if you take 70, 80, 100 years of life and you compare it to infinity, okay, I don't know. Just imagine, I hate to tell you, but and it's going to sound extreme, but the righteous people who suffer in this world, who are in the world of the Elona Emes, in the true world, and having endless connection because of what they went through, they're not like, oh, why that happened to them? That was a fleeting moment for them. That was stubborn. I mean, this is going to sound nuts, I know, but when I gave the example of stubbing your toe, you were like, well, that's nothing. That's right. But I hate to tell you, in terms of the world to come, to this was like stubbing the toe. God forbid, you don't want suffering. I'm not saying, but I'm saying a righteous person who's looking afterwards and saying, wow, eternity, and they see what they went through from that vantage point, it's a different reality. That's a vantage point of saying, wow, this was a temporary state they were in, and now they're in a different state. So you're right. It looks bigger, but those things are not the question. The question is that just like one baby, God forbid, dying, who's no real, and the reason I said a baby is because you can't say they did anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. So by one baby, you have to say that there's a completely different rationale. It can't be he did something bad and this was the consequence because he didn't do anything wrong. He's not obligated for anything he did wrong as a child. Until he's born by mitzvah, he's not obligated to anything. So for the one baby that happened, so that means that once I say that, I say, well, there must be a whole other rationale beyond it that's true on all levels. I'm going to see here, I have some people on Facebook. Dave, it's too loud. Oh, wow. I'm just going to...
Rabbi, could I step in here for a second? Could I step in for a second?
Yes, please.
This whole deal, it's not about this earthly body. All this stuff, bad stuff, it's not about us. As much as we live and everything that happens to us affects us and it's about us, but it's not. It's about this soul that's inside us and what the soul is experiencing and having to go through. And it's too bad that our earthly body or somebody else's earthly body gets abused or hurt or whatever, killed, but it's not about the body. It's about the soul.
As
Is
I-
that right?
You're saying good, Tar. You're saying good. So it happens like this: the body is the vehicle of the soul, and therefore we have to give tremendous act properly towards the body. And if someone passes away, we respect the body because the body was the vehicle for the soul, and that's important. But in terms of the job of the body and soul in this world is to do what is right, to do that unique opportunity of creating right, and then there is the experience afterwards of what you built. And you're right. So a person dies, and they bury the body, and the soul lives on forever. I hear. Very good, Tar. Okay, beautiful. Anyone have anything else to add?
Yes, I have another question. Oh, okay, sorry.
Eileen, yes. I'm not.
So in regard to what Tar said and what you were just relating, so it seems like in one of the 13 attributes of faith, Maimonides' 13 attributes of faith, is that in the next world, the body and soul reunites. That's the goal.
Right.
So it all goes together that yes, the body, of course, the soul is predominant as far as our, who we are, neshama, of course. But then going back to Mickey's question, it just all sort of, in my mind, seems to go together, because when you add in the fundamental faith that we have for a Jew, one of the 13 principles of faith is that the body and soul, the goal is for the body and soul later on to reunite. And
Right.
all that has to do with, yes, how we live our life here and the mistakes and correction.
Right.
So
Right. Very good, Eileen. So the reality like this is that the logic is that God has to reward the body too, because the body and soul were partners in the actions that they did in the world. Now, in the idea of Tchias HaMesim, when the body and soul are united, there's a process. And that process, at some point, the body becomes almost soul-like. It becomes the encasing of the soul. So I don't want people to think that Tchias HaMesim, the idea of the soul and body and soul uniting, means that it's like this world. It's not like this world. The Talmud maybe starts that way to see what's what and who's who, but the idea is that even the body soul connection becomes a spiritual life, because the body is transformed to be an appendage of the soul. That's the way the Ramchal explains it. But your point is exactly right. We don't just say that, okay, so that wouldn't be right. The body and soul together in this world, but the body has to be transformed to be really essentially a soul-like entity, but the lower expression of the neshama, of the soul. Very good, Eileen.
Question.
Okay, Akiva, you had a question?
Yeah, going on what you were just talking about, where the body and the soul will reunite in the afterlife. When you add in the reincarnation or the Gilgulim, how does that work out? Because it's one soul but multiple bodies.
So that's a complicated question, but I'll give you maybe a short answer. There are different parts of the soul. Now, not parts in the sense of like parts, because the soul is a spiritual entity, but you have what's called the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, the chayim, the chida. And what happens is, so what happens is like this, is that when a person comes back, they fix up a certain aspect of the soul. So this body, let's say, had the lower part of the soul, the nefesh. The person that had the ruach, the higher part, could be a different body. And so people could be, and this is what happens, people are interconnected. Again, the Torah Gilgulim is a very, very complicated topic. But what happens is once you understand that there are different aspects of one greater soul, and that people, just like you look at like this, you look at a body. So you look at a body and you say, okay, there's fingers, there's eyes, there's ears, there's one, but it's one body. So too, souls connect to be part of one greater soul. Okay, so the answer to your question is that in the time of Chesed Mason, it could be that the body comes back with one aspect of one connected soul, and then a connected part of that own person is in another body. That I think would be probably the way I understand it.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Question, Akiva.
Rabbi, I have a question. The idea about the word Ra, which I had learned that it was evil, meant evil, but I'm fascinated with the idea that you presented that it actually means a broken or a fragment or a broken fragment.
Right.
So when we use the term Yetzer Hara, how is, I've always heard that translated as the evil inclination. So how is the evil inclination broken, fragmented?
Okay, so colloquially, the word Ra, we do say it means evil, but what's the story of the Yetzer Hara? So it says in the Zohar, the famous analogy it gives an analogy of a king that hires a harlot and pays her to try to seduce her son, in the hopes that the son will say no. She's working for the king, right? We don't believe that the evil is a separate entity fighting God. That can't be, because God is omnipotent in every way. How can it be an entity fighting God? It makes no sense. So what happens is that the analogy is that the king hires this harlot and pays her and hires her to go and to try to seduce the son, with the goal, some will say no. So even though the harlot is doing her job, she herself is hoping that the son will say no. That means that in the greater picture, the Yetzer Hara, the force of negativity, is only doing God's bidding to go and to be beaten. That's what it's doing. So you're right. The word Ra, we commonly say means evil. I understand that. But the deeper meaning of evil means is that evil in the end is only meant for the purpose of revealing the good. So even this harlot, this Yetzer Hara, this negative thing is not independently bad. It's doing it for the purpose of the greater purpose that God created it for.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. Great seeing you all. And we'll see you Wednesday night, God willing. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Beautiful. So nice. Thank you so
Rabbi.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Rabbi.
Bye.
I sent a comment to you, Rabbi Inger.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I'll look at it. Thank you.